Welcome, listeners and viewers. My name is Ryan Todd, the host of Beyond the Checkbox, where we learn how to integrate more mental wellness into our workplaces, and we learn through frontline leaders. And once in a while, we get an amazing story of adversity come through our studio, and that's what we have for you today. Shannon Abeda, who is the only and first Eritrean winter athlete. That's right. That's a Eritrean winter athlete, and competed in the previous Olympics in Beijing. And Shannon has an incredible story of adversity. The way that Shannon came to me was one of our board members at Headversity, Patricia Phillips, CEO of PBA Land and Development, came to us and said, hey, we know Shannon is an Olympic athlete and did not necessarily have the funding to get to the Olympics, the Winter Olympics. So, hey, can Headversity sponsor, can PBA sponsor this athlete to actually get there? And we did. We pooled our money. Shannon went and competed in the Winter Olympics. It was crazy. Like the stories that he came and told us about just getting to the actual race were incredible. So Shannon is a very unique individual. Shannon was gracious enough to come to our studio so we could have a chat about his experience, and Patricia Phillips joined us as well. So a very cool podcast for me to shoot. Shannon is a personal hero given the adversity he's faced and just getting above that and following his dreams. He's an Olympian. How cool is that? I hope you enjoy the show. I just want to literally start, Shannon, with your story, because you went to Beijing. I want to know what that was like. And tell me a little bit about that experience. And I first want to know how you got into skiing, because your family's from Eritrea. You were not born there, but your parents were, and they immigrated to Canada, in Alberta specifically. So how did you get into skiing at, I presumably, a young age?
Yeah, so I started skiing when I was 3 years old. My sister went to our ski hill in our local community when I lived in Fort McMurray, and she liked it a lot, so she convinced my parents to register us into the local program. And then around the age of 5, my parents put me into a program called Nancy Green, so it was an entry level for racing. And at the time, I didn't quite enjoy it as much. I wasn't enthusiastic because all my friends were hockey players and I wanted to do that, and that was the thing to do in the small town. And then when I was about 7, our family moved to Calgary, so I got exposed to the Rockies and had better access to training and coaches, and that's where really my passion took off. And I started getting good results into my teenage years and adulthood. I made a decision that to compete for Eritrea and try to go to the Olympics.
What was that decision? So you could have potentially tried to compete for Canada. I mean, you have a lot of pride, obviously, where your family's from and where your folks are from. Tell me about that decision to compete for Eritrea and what that was like.
So in 2012, I found out about the Youth Olympic Games that were happening, and I really wanted to go. So there was the opportunity for me to compete for Eritrea. So the Eritrean National Olympic Committee reached out to me and asked me if I could start a winter federation and potentially a ski team for future Winter Olympics. So I made that decision, and at first it was more, oh yeah, I want to go to the Olympics and participate. But then I realized later on that there was much more involvement in my community and people wanted to be involved in winter sports. So it became something where I was doing this for myself, but also for future Eritreans.
How many Eritreans are Olympic athletes, winter athletes? Like, do you have that number off the top of your head? I imagine it's not too many. It's a tropical, kind of climate, right?
I'm the only one as of now, but after these games, I did get reached out by a few athletes that are participating in winter sports and they are interested in going to the next Olympics. So we will likely have 4 or 5 athletes at the next games.
It's incredible because of you.
Yes.
That's amazing. And how did the two of you come to know each other?
Do you want to start?
Yeah. So Andrew Vargo, Patricia's son, skied with me from a very young age, and I guess we weren't as close, but over the years we kind of reconnected and started talking more. And he reached out to me when I needed support, and he offered it, and I connected with Patricia.
Yeah, I remember him. I think it was maybe a couple weeks before the Olympics. He called me on a Saturday, and Andrew, as you know, Andrew, he's always got a deal. He's trying to negotiate or help someone out. And he said, "Mom, I need to talk to you about Shannon." He qualified to go to the Olympics, and I remember Shannon as a young boy always at the ski hill doing incredibly well, and your parents were always there supporting you at the bottom of the finish line. And Andrew was always such a great support as well to you. And he said, "Mom, Shannon needs some sponsorship to get to the Olympics. He really wants to do it, Mom. He's not going to be able to do this again. And I know that you'll help him out." I didn't hesitate at all, because I've known Shannon for so long. I know how determined you are and what a supportive community that you have, and how you really inspire others to really achieve the best of themselves. So I didn't hesitate for a minute. And I know I have the incredible fortune of chairing the board of Headversity and really understanding as an athlete the importance of mental health and being involved in Headversity. And so I think I got off the phone with Andrew. I called you, and I think we got a hold of you right before you were getting on the plane for the Olympics. And for me, just hearing the silence and I felt the overwhelming gratitude that you had for us stepping behind you and being a part of the team. And we were just so incredibly proud of you and being able to support you in the achievement of your dreams. So thank you for that.
Had you competed in a previous Olympics?
Yeah, so I competed in the last Olympics in 2018. That was in South Korea.
Yeah. Okay. And it sounds like, I imagine there's not like a ton of funding for Eritrea in winter sports. That may be an ignorant statement, but that could be the case. So you needed some sponsorship to actually get to the Olympics this time around. Is that right?
Yes. So I was having issues, securing finance from my National Olympic Committee. They were not able to give me the money in time for me to go. So 2 weeks before about to leave, I was pretty certain that I couldn't do it, because I had exhausted all my resources and even my own savings to qualify. And then, beyond that point, I didn't know if I could do it. And, I'm very grateful that, Headversity and BPA stepped up for me.
So you weren't able to go, it was 2 weeks away. You had trained for how long to qualify to get on the Olympic slate? What was that process? How long did that last for?
So I took a year off after 2018, and 2019 I got to training again, but I was training for a different sport. And then it was around COVID that I started transitioning towards skiing. So I'd say about 3.5 years that I was training to qualify. And it was very difficult just with the COVID situation. A lot of races were being canceled. The only races were in Europe or in the United States. I didn't have the financial resources. I was also still in school. So it was pretty much I was very lucky that I qualified, because the BC Alpine hosted 2 races, and I was able to get in on a technicality to go to those races. And then the next season there was enough races for me to qualify. So it was very, very tight procedure, tight timing. And I was pretty certain, I think at 2 points, right around December 2020, that it was going to happen. And then right before we're about to go, I was like, this is done. I'm not going.
Why did you think that?
Well, obviously COVID was very unpredictable. There
Yeah.
was so many restrictions coming into play, and money was very tight. I didn't have that resources, and as well, I started, even just doubting myself, being like, this is crazy to even do this. It's exhausting on your own life. Like, you're putting everything on hold. Like, why are you going through this process again? And then, 2 weeks before we're going, I, didn't have the money to go. And that was a really hard reality to face. Is like, I did everything up until this point, and I was, hoping that other people would step in, and my federation didn't, and that was really heartbreaking.
You got that news 2 weeks before the Olympics that your federation wasn't able to support you?
Yes.
That must have been let's call that a heartbreaking moment.
Yeah.
Training so hard for all that. Your federation had supported you in the previous Olympics, I imagine.
Yes, they were able to cover the airline tickets and a few of my logistical costs, but everything up until the Olympics I had paid, and I had my family that helped me.
I think this is something we don't really know about the Olympics, right? Because we see Olympians often as professional athletes who have funding, and it just comes from sponsors. And we always see the top athletes from well-resourced countries who are sponsored by like Cheerios and Adidas or whatever it is. And well, actually, I don't know. Is this a common occurrence for Olympians to not have funding, or it gets pulled like 2 weeks before the Olympics?
Unfortunately, it is common for smaller countries, but also bigger countries too. Some of the very not well-known sports, the athletes have had to finance everything up into the games, and then while they're there, everything is covered. But I'm fortunate enough that I was able to do it because I have a well-supporting job. But some friends of mine that went to the Olympics have spent tens of thousands of dollars just to qualify, and then while they were there, they did have some issues with their federation trying to pull funds last minute.
It was very important to you to go to these Olympics. Take us through why that was so important. I can imagine why it is. Like, I could project my feelings as to why it was so important to be an Olympian, but what does that mean to you?
It's something that I'm still processing, after these games too, but the first one, it meant a lot to me that I had failed to qualify for Sochi, and then trying again another 4 years and putting myself through that process, and there were injuries and lots of obstacles. Even just myself, I doubted my ability at times, and so to have overcome that and then qualified and went to Pyeongchang, that meant a lot. But these games, I think, were more significant for me because during COVID, I lost someone close to me at a very young age. And I guess that really shook me up, just given I'd walked away from skiing for the sake of my, mental health. Like, I put so much and I just needed time. And I was very young and I didn't want to waste any more time I had in my life. So I decided that I wanted to come back and, give this a go. And it was much more difficult this time around. Just, I had to plan everything, and dealing with all the obstacles. It really took its toll, but I'm happy. Like, I was genuinely so happy that I qualified and I got there, and it meant more to me, and just I was even more happier just being in Beijing than I was in Pyeongchang.
What was the turning point for you? When did you decide, I'm going to commit to actually going to this?
I think it was around November 2020. My life, I wasn't really dealing well with the loss of my friend, and I was just doing what I do every day, just go to school, work, train, try to just do the repetitive things. And then I think that really just hit me, being like, I'm wasting my time right now. I'm not doing anything that's fulfilling in my life. So I sat down, I bounced the idea off my parents, and they initially were very reluctant to be on board with this. And I guess over, the months, I was like, okay, how can I do this? And I was looking at stuff, and I think, just before the end of 2020, I was like, I can do this, and this is where I'm gonna go.
One of the turning points you mentioned was the loss of your friend. Tell us a little bit about your friend, and then the impact that had. That seemed to be like a dramatic moment for you.
So I grew up with a person named Connor, in my community, and I known him from a very young age. When I was 7, he was the first person that I met in my community, my cul-de-sac. We'd always play hockey together, play video games, and I was that new kid on the block, so it was great to just meet other people. And I guess over the years we had slowly disconnected. Like, my life gotten busy, and he also had gotten busy. But I remember, talking to his father, during his passing, he told me that he was silently watching me in the background, especially in 2018. He was really happy for me, and I never got the chance to really thank him and talk to him before he, passed away. But I remember, hearing about that, and I just broke, and I was devastated. Not only that he died at such a young age, but he was living his life, and he was so happy. And I was looking at mine and being like, I accomplished all these things, but there are people that in my life that were there, but I haven't reached out to them. And so that was really, really hard for me to grasp. And after that, I tried to be a little bit more grateful and, really support the people around me too.
And that seemed to drive you to qualify to get sponsorship. Like, it was then at Connor, it seemed to be like a driving force for you.
Yeah.
How did that carry you through the Olympics and competition, and talk about what that did for you when you were skiing?
It's something I'm still also processing and trying to understand, because I guess I like to think that I'm young, but also a little bit old too. And I would always look at him and just hearing about the things that he was doing in his life and the accomplishments that he was making, and I always think, like, I need to do this, like, I need to finish this. I started something, and I want to make sure I finish it on good terms. So it was always there was always like some sort of silent driving force in the back of my life, and I think that was him.
He would have been proud of you, I think, for driving this hard, eh?
Yeah.
Patricia, did you know this aspect of the story when PBA decided to sponsor Shannon?
No, I did not. Andrew had mentioned that you had lost a friend, but no, I didn't know at all. I didn't realize that at all.
Yeah. Well, it's an incredible loss, and then I think the more incredible aspect is how you turned that loss for the whole community into something so positive. Going to the Olympics, representing your country and in a lot of ways Canada and our city too. I think it was an incredible feat. How did it go? Did you perform to your standards? Did you exceed? Like, take us through the games.
Oh, it was incredible. I did exceed my standards, but getting there was like, there was a lot of logistical stuff, and then training wasn't really going well. It was a new type of surface that I've never skied on before, and also had equipment issues. I was not used to the equipment that I had, so I wasn't very optimistic going into the race day. I was like, hey, I'm here. I have to finish what I start, and we'll see what happens at the end of the day. And then come race day, completely different surface again. I had never skied that in my life, and I knew that was a big challenge. And I'd seen most of my friends, they had either skied out or crashed. So I had not very high expectations for myself. It was more, I need to ski consistently and do what I've been doing in training. And at the end of my first run, I saw my ranking. I was like, that's not bad. Okay, we can push it up a little bit more the second run, because usually the first run is where I'm anxious. That's where things go wrong. But I knew I finished the first one. I definitely could finish the second one, and I could do better. And second one I did, and it was much better placing than my last Olympics. And given the time and everything I had and the resources, it's exactly what I wanted, and even exceeded my expectations.
Did you have a coach there?
I did have a coach there.
How did your coach get there? Was there? I mean, your coach came with some funding to her. Was
Yes.
it a retrain or a Canadian coach?
It was a Canadian coach.
Okay,
Yeah.
That's good. Amazing. I mean, there's some Olympians who have like 3 coaches.
Oh, yeah.
Like there's an entourage that gets covered. But yeah, you had a little bit of funding did some of the funding go towards getting your coach there as well?
Yes, it went to getting my team there. So I had a coach, I had a medical officer, Our chef de mission, he was the one that dealt with the logistics. He
Yeah.
had his own funding. And then I was able to also bring a videographer on our team, so that he helped capture some pretty cool stories.
So you represented Eritrea at the Olympics.
Yeah.
Did you carry the flag? Or what is it in the opening games? Is it the torch or the flag?
It's a flag.
It's the flag.
It's a flag.
Yeah,
So you carried that.
I carry that opening
Because
ceremony.
like you were the athlete to do that.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Patricia, what did you learn throughout all this? I mean, it was an incredible experience just like following you, Shannon, and your journey. I mean, you've sponsored athletes before. You know, you've been instrumental in, especially with alpine sports, and funding them and funding athletes. Was this a different experience for you?
In a way it was. I think for us, in our family, sport is really, really important. We're very close to the ski racing community. And I think for PBA, we're all about mental health and supporting. I didn't realize, I had spoken briefly to Andrew about, you know, the challenges with your friend and losing, but I didn't understand the connection to our small community. But it was different, different for us in the regard that it had such a huge impact on you, and it was really about being able to empower Shannon to achieve his dreams. And I felt it was so real, because I remember I was on the phone, Andrew and I were saying, okay guys, we only need one person talking to Shannon. We need him to stay focused. He's got enough distractions right now. He's got his equipment, everything else. And so Andrew's like, okay Mom, he's checking into the hotel right now, and his Visa card just bounced. Should I give him your Visa card? You remember that?
Yeah, I do.
And we were like, okay, we got to so it was so real. We were so connected to it. And it made, listen, I played your video that you so brilliantly composed to everyone on our team. One morning we have these 8:38 meetings that we like to share what we're up to. So of course I said, oh guys, I've got to tell you, everyone in the office, here's what we're doing. And there was seriously not a dry eye. They were so moved by your story. They were so they just all were cheering from you, including Rhonda, just giving us a rundown of, and they don't know ski racing at all, but we were all very, very connected as an organization to really, really wanting you to do your best. And I remember watching you coming down the hill, so that was incredible. You really did a great job, and you make me really proud too.
You had so many opportunities to just give up, and you didn't. Like, what was that thing for you? That, I mean, we call it hardiness, right? That ability to endure difficult conditions, and you faced many difficult conditions. So talk to me a little bit about what are some of those skills that you practice to like keep going, keep your mindset right, so you can actually achieve your dreams.
I think keeping myself grounded, taking one step at a time. I like to journal too at the end of every day, and really just like recap the day, and also try to see something I did good. Because I know sometimes when everything seems like it's falling apart, there's one thing that you're doing, and if you really focus on that, that's 1% that you can build on. And that really helped me. I also feel too, I've always grown up in a household too where my parents were very persistent in what they wanted to achieve. So they always taught me, like, you have to keep going, and if you fail, there's no shame in failing, but there is shame if you just give up and walk away without actually knowing what you could have done. And I think I kept reminding myself of that, is like, well, if I pull the plug now, I'm gonna live with this regret for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And I have to take it to the end. And if I fail, like, it's not a big deal. Like, I've done that before. Like, I failed to qualify for Sochi, and in the grand scheme of things now, I learned way more out of that, and I took it forward to 2018, 2022 than I have shame for 2014.
Yeah, there's so much there, right? The like, you turn failure, you failed forward, as they say. Like, you experienced some failure in Sochi, you use that to motivate yourself. You had come to understand. The thing that I struggle with is, like, we can always focus on the 10 things, the bad things that happened that day, but you really made a point of focusing on that like one or two really good things, and that kept you going. Was that the case? Like there was so many things going on at that time, 10 bad things a day. At one point, it was like you literally couldn't get on the plane. How did you stay strong to focus on those one or two good things, the positive outcomes of your day when there was a lot of disappointment?
One of the things that I really did is, even at the Olympics, I went back in my journal and I looked at everything I'd written and just saw the one thing that I wrote this day that was good and the other thing. And even just the words that I wrote, I can see the tone and how I was feeling. And I compared it to, where I was now, and I saw the growth. I saw how different I was. And that kept me going in the sense that, yeah, today might feel really bad, but given yesterday or the previous months, like they were worse. They were much worse. So you've iteratively progressed forward.
Yeah. What did you learn being in Beijing competing?
I think this time I learned to just be in the moment, because in Pyeongchang I was scrambled everywhere, just trying to soak everything up and not just being right there and now, and really just making sure that I was enjoying myself and having fun. I think sometimes we can get lost in worrying about things. Like for me, I had so many things I had to deal with when I got back home, and there was media and everything, but I felt just present in the moment.
Yeah. Did you feel pressure to succeed or get a personal best, or what was there pressure, and how did you work through that?
I think there was pressure just for me. Like I've always been my worst enemy. I always expect these high standards. So I think talking to myself, and also having my coach around me who encouraged me and also supported, saying that I was doing good things, and like he's not concerned for race day, and that I am in a good place, and that I can do well. I think that really helped me. So for race day, I felt much more prepared.
Patricia, what did you learn when you were seeing Shannon come down the hill in Beijing?
Oh, it's funny. I'm thinking of you living in the moment and staying focused. When I saw Shannon, I was like nervous when I was watching him on TV, because I knew how important it was for him. But I also know, and I'm thinking of the story that you've been talking about, the resiliency that you had. And I always recall as a young boy watching you come down those races. There were times when Shannon would fall and you would get up and you would like turn it around and come down that hill. Like he never gave up. He always did well, but he never gave up. So I'm listening to you, and you talk about, I think with a little bit more experience, how you mentally shift. And I was nervous when you were sitting in the gates on the second run, just from having seen how many athletes actually did not make it through the course. And it was a scary course. I know some of his other, the teammates that he trained with from the Canadian team, and they were really struggling. But you know what? I can see it now. You stayed focused in the moment. You stayed calm, and you did remarkable. I got on the phone with Andrew right after. I'm like, yes!
Nailed it. What was the surface like? What was up with the snow?
It was weird because they brought in snow. They helied snow onto the mountain.
Oh my God.
So it wasn't actually,
What?
yeah.
They took a helicopter and dropped snow on the mountain.
Yeah. So I don't know where they got the snow, but then they packed it down, and the temperature was very dry. So the surface was slick.
Yeah.
It was good for training because if you had sharp edges, it hooked up and you could really get good skiing in. The problem is you couldn't have your technique off. If you were, rotating with the upper body, the skis would not react in the way that you wanted to. So it was very difficult to train on initially. And then come race day, I'm not entirely sure what happened, but the day before they allowed us to free ski, and the bottom section was just crumbly. It was soft snow. Like you couldn't put your skis on edge because it would pretty much slide out. And then I think they slipped it, and then it got a little bit warmer, and then it cooled down. So then the surface was then a skating rink. And I had never skied on that in my life. And my edges were as sharp as they could be. And even when I was going down, I could just feel it, sliding out. And all I had to do was just make sure I was focused on staying on that downhill ski.
Let's take some of the skills that you developed, like over the years, like tenacity. You are a very resilient and hardy individual. You were so focused and staying present in the moment. You're a student now. And how do you see that translating into what you're doing for a career and a profession? And I also want to ask, what's next for you?
A lot of questions.
Let's start with the first 5 questions that I put there.
Okay. So I felt like, because I've had the opportunity to work in a corporate role, so I think just given everything that I've gone through as a ski racer, it definitely taught me about discipline, time management, being resilient, and also being a good communicator. So if there's issues, to communicate them and stand up for myself. And also, even just getting the job in general, like I had so many rejection letters, and trying to navigate the interviews, and also deal with my own sadness of botching an interview here and there. So making sure that I persisted, and I think because of ski racing, I was like, I've gone through worse. Like it's tough there, and that really helped me secure the job that I have right now. For future, I guess I'm in my going to my last year of school and as a software developer, and that's something that I'm looking into doing. I also got into videography, photography, so maybe some freelance work. There's a lot of doors that I haven't opened yet, and my plan was to retire for 2022, but I guess now the athletes that we have coming from Eritrea, I will be in 2026 in some capacity, either as official or an athlete, not as an alpine skier, but there is the opportunity to be in bobsled or ski cross. So I'm exploring those avenues, but I think either way, I still will continue to be at Olympics, whether I'm an athlete or a role model for other athletes.
So there's more Eritrean winter athletes on their way.
Yes.
It's incredible. Okay. And I imagine that's because of your involvement. Like the Eritrean Winter Olympic team, sounds like it doesn't exist without you. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of athletes that are relying on me now, and at times it can be overwhelming, but it makes me happy that I'm inspiring other people to do what they want to do and pursue their dreams. And if I can to help them do that, that's fulfilling for me.
Well, congratulations. It's an honor to have you and chat with you today and to hear your story. It is incredibly inspirational, in particular because you accomplished your dream, and so few of us, have the tenacity to push through, and you have shown us that. So thank you for what you're doing and talking to people about it and sharing your inspiration. It's an incredible story. Thank you for coming to the studio today.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Patricia.
Thank you.